and Terry McLaurin. In his first 5 seasons, Scary Terry averaged 5 touchdown catches per season. But last year, with Jaden Daniels at quarterback, he broke the Washington franchise record. 13 touchdown receptions, second most in the NFL last season, behind Jamar Chase, who had 17. And he's also looking for a new contract. So, Graz, what more can you tell us?
Unfortunately, not a ton, which is really the story. The Commanders and Terry McLaurin haven't made much progress toward a new deal. He has 1 year left on his contract, going to make about $19.5 million this year. But, of course, we know the wide receiver market has sailed way past that. Jamar Chase, who you just mentioned, is going to make more than twice that this year. So McLaurin would like something that brings his contract a little more in line with the top guys and reflects the way he's performed. Common sense indicates that this gets done at some point, Hannah. He wants to be there. They want him there. But so far, they really have not been able to see eye to eye.
And how are you viewing him from a fantasy perspective, Field?
Yeah, Hannah, Terry McLaurin's been one of the more remarkably consistent players over the past 5 years. He's had at least 77, but no more than 87 catches in any of those 5 seasons, between 1,000 and 1,200 receiving yards. But something that you referenced changed and unlocked a new level of his value last season. It's the fact that he scored 13 touchdowns. You mentioned the Commanders franchise record. Why? They have a quarterback who gives them much more touchdown equity. So Terry McLaurin's going to be drafted somewhere in that wide receiver 2 to wide receiver 3 range. It's hard to score 13 times in any season, much less twice in a row, but no two ways about it. Terry McLaurin being as steady as he is with the continued ascension of Jaden Daniels at least gives us the possibility of double-digit touchdowns once again in 2025.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this through like actual football lens, not through a fantasy football lens. So I want to be clear about that. Fantasy doesn't matter to me. But I will say, though, that I think that this offense, with Terry McLaurin, obviously, and Jane Daniels and Debo and company, that it's going to be so much less about this offense trying to look like they're this unstoppable juggernaut.
Yeah, and I want to talk about this through like actual football lens, not through a fantasy football lens. So I want to be clear about that. Fantasy doesn't matter to me. But I will say, though, that I think that this offense with Terry McLaurin, obviously, and Jane Daniels and Debo and company, that it's going to be so much less about this offense trying to look like they're this unstoppable juggernaut of a force. Jane Daniels exploded onto the scene last season, and that Commanders offense, without it being overly stacked or, just flushed with weapons, run game, beast like it, that wasn't necessarily the case. And yet it was still an awesome, dynamic, exciting offense. But, and I think it's going to continue to be that way. But I really do believe that as long as Cliff Kingsbury and I think he will, I think he's smart enough to know this, that it's not about sending a message. It's not about, showing all that you can have, showing all your plays, sending a message, putting up huge, massive scores. It's very much like we're looking at this year through the lens of like, we can win a Super Bowl. We're not trying to necessarily figure things out. We have them figured out. We're trying to now fine tune everything and just make sure that we're saving our best, our best stuff for the end of the season, ideally in February. That is going to be the mentality. And it was very similar to what the Chiefs did in 2018 into 2019. If we look at Mahomes from 2018 to 2019, he explodes on the scene, right? He erupts. 5,000 yards, 50 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 113 passer rating, 580 attempts, 383 completions. And then in 2019, a lot of that is cut. His touchdowns are essentially cut in half. His yards by 1,000. He played 2 less games, but that doesn't explain that much of a drop-off, obviously. And it was less centered around just, we want Mahomes to be everything. We want Mahomes to be magic. It was less about that. It was more balanced football in a lot of ways. And so it's funny because as much as I think that this offense is going to be dynamic, and as much as I believe that Jane Daniels is just going to keep getting better and better and better and be just one of the most exciting players that we've seen in the NFL, A part of me is also hoping to actually just see less exciting moments in a lot of ways and actually see more boring football and seeing things just feel a lot more straightforward. Because when we saw Jaden Daniels really be um, at his most exciting, not at his best, but at his most exciting, it was when he was making a lot of things out of nothing. And when he was making these just gorgeous throws, these gorgeous moments to someone like a Terry McLaurin. It was making something out of nothing. It was in a huge moment of the game. It was when they were down, you know what, a key moment of the game, whatever it may be. And in a lot of ways, if you're building a better team, if you're building a team that's going to be in a better position to win a Super Bowl, ideally, you're going to want less of those moments, a lot less of those moments. And so, yeah, I think it also is going to so much depend on the defense as well. I'm expecting this defense to be significantly better. I'm a big believer in Dan Quinn and what he can do defensively. And so I'm expecting that you're going to need less offensively from this team and that you are going to be in a more in more situations where you are up 21-3 in the fourth quarter, 9 minutes to go. And it really is about like, man, let's just we want a 5-6, we want a 9-minute drive, but we just want to just milk this clock, man. We're trying to get to at least 2-minute warning, have the other team start burning their timeouts. It's just going to be, you know, you're kind of just counting down the minutes till it's time to, you know, switch to the next game. I'm expecting, and again, if you're a Commander fan, that's also what you're hoping to see. So it will be interesting to see how these how that affects like the stats of someone like a Jaden Daniels, Terry McLaurin as well. And to be very clear, there obviously is going to be no shortage of exciting and wild moments. I mean, it's still going to be football, and you're still talking about having these great players, but I am expecting a little bit more boring football. And the great thing about Jane Daniels is that I think he gets it. I don't think he's anxious to just constantly play this electric brand of football. It's why I say he's an elite game manager, which is not a bad thing to say. I feel like every time you say that, you like have to justify it, which is kind of frustrating and repetitive. Because he's an elite game manager and a game changer and a game breaker. But when you get it, when you just get it, you get it. And I believe that Jaden gets it. So I just think, you know, to me, it's like my more question is like, does Cliff Kingsbury get it? Does he understand, you know, what the true goal of this season will be? Because that is what it is. It's you're building this team. You're surrounding Jaden Daniels with some true pieces. You're making some moves defensively to give Dan Quinn some more strings to pull. You're expecting this defense to be significantly better than it was last year. That is why you hired Dan Quinn, defensive head coach. You have the continuity of Cliff Kingsbury and obviously Jaden and Zach Gertz and Claren now bringing in Debo and whatnot, fortifying the O-line. Yeah. It's just I'm so fascinated to see how a team like this understands what they're looking to do, what they're looking to accomplish this coming season, what they're actually capable of doing, because I think they are capable of doing it, and how they kind of navigate that throughout the season with a quarterback who obviously is going to bring so much attention and can be so great in any given moment. Like, that's what I'm fascinated to see, because in a lot of ways it is a bit of a burden to have someone like Jaden Daniels who's so electric, so dynamic, so amazing, but it's like, how do we get that guy? How do we build a team where he can just play boring football? Because again, we can use Lamar Jackson as probably almost even of a better example than a Mahomes or even a Josh Allen for that matter, where it's just like there's no shortage of highlight reel plays for Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen. I mean, especially even just Lamar Jackson last season, you know, some of his scrambles and throws against like the Bengals and whatnot. I mean, like, you're watching that and you're just like, this is just some of the greatest moments I've ever seen in my entire life. But ultimately it doesn't consistently enough lead to winning football at the highest level in the most important games. It just doesn't. And so when you're it's more concerning if you're having games and highlights like that game after game after game after game. It's exciting individually, and like I always talk about, we have so many fans who are individual fans of a quarterback compared to a team. And I think when you're, especially, I mean, I'm sure Commanders fans, a lot of those fans have been dormant for a long time because of it. But it's obviously a deep franchise with deep roots who's been around forever. There's gonna be enough fans that understand that it's this team needs to be bigger than just their quarterback, and it's a balance. It's a balance when you have someone who can truly be as great and is as great as Jaden Daniels. So there are some other things to kind of juggle here. Yeah, I really am a firm believer, and I'm not even necessarily 100% predicting it. I'm really not, but like I'm a firm believer that it's better for the Commanders this coming season if Jaden Daniels has a boring season. He's better off looking more like Jaden, like Jalen Hurts did this coming last season than what Lamar and Josh Allen looked like. You just are. And again, one quarterback became the Super Bowl MVP and actually rocked Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs, while the other ones got sent home. Like that is the spectrum here. That is the fundamental difference. And it's not to say that you can't have it both ways, because obviously we've had plenty of quarterbacks who have balled out start to finish and were heroes in 9 out of 16 games or 17 games, and then also ball out in the in the playoffs and whatnot. But I really am a firm believer in just like the more boring your games look and the more consistently you win in those ways, the better, man. It's just it's so much more of an indicator of you being a higher quality balanced team. And so I'm curious, I really am curious what they're going to want to do offensively this season. Is it really an emphasis on this next evolution of really trying to we are just going to try to blow these teams out, at least like offensively in terms of what we can do, or is it going to be more strategic? Because again, we see that with Andy Reid over the years, right? Like he is notorious with just keeping so much to the vest until it matters most, either within a game or throughout a season. And it's obviously worked quite well for him. So, yeah, I actually kind of like that. There's more question marks going into this season, actually, because I was so confident last year, not exactly how the season was going to go last year, but I was so confident in Jin Daniels being electric and all of that. And now that we've seen that, I'm really curious as to how do the Commanders game plan and build around having a quarterback who's so electric. What are they going to rely on him and ask him to do game after game after game this season, when his base level of talent and what he can accomplish is very much defined right now? There is no figuring it out. You don't have those questions anymore, so kind of what are these next steps that are taken? I'm excited to find out. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Washington Commanders and how this offense will be run, how it's going to influence players like Terry McLaurin, Jen Daniels, etc., etc.? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. Please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.